Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, you beautiful English learners. So one hobby of mine, one passion of mine is food. I love food. Food is delicious. It's tasty. It makes me happy and it fulfills my life. Without food, I would be nothing. Literally nothing, because without food, I'd probably be dead. However, when I was a kid, I always enjoyed cooking food. I can remember baking Christmas treats with my mum. I can remember cooking food with my mother, and she taught me a lot. Sometimes I'd be reading a cookbook and I have no idea what this verb means. So she would show me and she would teach me. So now it's my turn to return the favor to you. Behind me, I have 10 sexy, beautiful verbs that we use for cooking food on a regular basis. Over here, we have all the different definitions for those verbs. And it's your job to match 1 to 10 with A to J. So before we begin, just think about all the different types of verbs that you already know for cooking. I know you've already looked at some of these here, but can you make a list on a piece of paper with all the different types and all the different verbs we use for preparing or for cooking food? Pause the video if you have to. Pause the video if you want to write them down, or just keep listening because we're about to jump into these 10 sexy verbs. So the first one here is to peel, to roast, to fry. Preheat, boil, chop, serve, squeeze, add, and mix. Now, a lot of these verbs you might have seen before, not related to food. And that's the thing about English. These verbs have lots of different meanings, okay? But, sorry if it's loud, but for the sake of this video here, we're just going to focus on these definitions here. So the first one is to peel. I'm going to give you a hint. Before you cook potatoes, before you boil potatoes, you should peel potatoes. Any idea? Some people like to peel apples before they eat them. Me, I never peel an apple. I always eat the skin too. Heck, I never even peel my potatoes. I love the skin on the potatoes. So, any idea what it means? Any idea which one of these it could be? Let me see. To peel is to C. Take the skin off. You get a knife, you start cutting away the skin, and you start eating. Absolutely delicious. Good old peeling spuds. Peel an apple, peel a potato, peel a banana. You always need to peel a banana before you eat it, for example. Okay, to roast. Roast has a lot of different meanings, but the one we're going to look at now is a chicken. How do you cook a chicken? Any ideas? Well, generally you put it on a tray, cover it in tin foil, and put it into the oven. Now if you put a chicken into the oven, you are roasting the chicken. So to roast is to cook food in an oven, usually with oil. All right? You can have roast vegetables. Chop up all your vegetables. There we go, chop. Number 6. So you chop up all your vegetables, you put them into the casserole dish, put the casserole dish in the oven, crank it to roast them. So I mentioned chop. Let's jump straight to chop. Chop. Chop is when you make your food into smaller pieces. You are going to cry if you chop an onion. A lot of people chop onions and they just cannot help but tear up every single time. I always cry when I'm chopping up an onion. Now, it's not on the board, but chop is a good one. However, sometimes you need to do it more so than just a regular chop. Sometimes you need to chop it an awful lot and make it teeny tiny wee pieces. What's that verb? If you're making gravy, you need the onion. You chop it first, but then you just keep doing this. You get your knife and you keep going one way or the other until the onion is minute, tiny. In that case, it's called dice, D-I-C-E. And you need to dice an onion, and that is just make it extremely small. Okay, so just for the sake of time, we're going to go through these very, very fast. Okay, so fry. To fry some food. You might fry some sausages, fry some potatoes, fry some onions. I love fried onions. You add some butter. Oh God, it's delicious. Stop, focus on it. Okay, so to fry is to use a pan to cook food. H. You know, you're frying food, you throw on stuff and it sizzles and it is delicious, okay? We have to preheat. Before you put your chicken in the oven, you need to make sure the oven is warm. You need to make sure it's hot, okay? And that is to preheat. So the very first thing you do when you are baking or cooking, you turn on the oven. You preheat the oven, okay? Pre means before, heat is to make warm. And that would be to preheat an oven is to, where is it? Turn on the oven before adding food. Okay. To boil. Think about the adjective boiling. It's outside right now. It is boiling. It's like 50 degrees outside. What temperature does water boil at? 100 degrees Celsius. Okay. So to boil is when you get water in a saucepan, you crank the little hot rings, and bubbles come. So if you want to have an egg, you have a lot of different ways, but you can boil an egg. You turn the water on, it bubbles, you add your eggs. Boil an egg. So to boil is going to be to number, where is it? Letter J. Letter J. Put something into hot water in order to cook it. Okay? Heck, people even boil chickens. How about that? Okay. We have done shop, so serve. Now, a lot of people, especially a lot of Spanish speakers, I'm on to you guys, and Portuguese speakers, they'll always present the food. I presented the food at 10 p.m. last night. No, absolutely not. The waitress presented me with food. Well, technically yes, but to present is a little different. In English, what we would normally say is serve, okay? So you have some nice food, the waiter will serve you the food. And that is, they bring the food to the table. I'm making dinner tonight for my friends, and I'm going to serve food at 8 p.m. That's what time the food is being served at. Okay? So to serve food. So obviously that one there is with, to provide food is ready. To provide food is ready. Terrible grammar, excuse me. To provide food that is ready to eat. Okay? So to serve is to provide food that is ready to be eaten. We have squeeze. I used to live in Spain. Love that country. I lived in the north in a little town called Durango outside of Bilbao. So Basque country, to be honest. One of my favorite things was the fresh juice every morning. To die for. So good. They get oranges, they put it into a big machine, they pull a lever, and all the juice comes out, and it is fresh as can be. You cannot get fresher than that. They squeeze the oranges. They squeeze the lemons. When you squeeze something and all the juice comes out, that is what it means, to squeeze. So squeeze is to press something to get juice, E, to squeeze. And two more, to add and to mix. Okay, so there's a little difference between these, but number 9 is going to be I, and number 10 is going to be G. Okay, So there's a slight difference between them. To add food. For example, you're making mashed potatoes. You might want to add some seasoning. Okay? So I'm literally just adding some oregano, some basil, whatever it is, to my food. Some salt and some pepper. To mix is a little different. To mix is when you get ingredient A, ingredient B, and you combine them together. You swirl them around until they are one. To be honest, to mix and to add, there's not a massive difference, okay? But to add is, you can add stuff once the food is fully made, whereas you can't really mix stuff into it once it's already made. So the ingredients will be mixed together, and at the very end, I add a little bit of chocolate on top to give it that extra taste. Okay guys, there you go. Some cooking verbs. I hope they were helpful. I hope you learned something. Right now, I'm going to go grab myself a coffee. Take care, beautiful people. Have a great day.